I made a thread on Twitter asking people for their MSI hot takes. Let's take a look. Histo is world class, even if we go 0-6 again. Alright, we can keep track of that molecule. You're vouching for your boy. Low Gang says, LYON will make the finals, allowing a 4th seed from NA, and C9 will still miss Worlds. Bro, half the NA teams would make Worlds. Would C9 would have to be worse than half the NA teams. Do you realize how bad that has to be? They have to be bad than half the NA teams. There's 8 teams in North America. G2 will make finals, and if the finals opponent is not BOG, they will win. Yeah, you know, I don't wanna destroy the G2 parade. You know, I do think heading into a tournament, I feel like there's more room here on paper for G2 to do more damage than there was for them to do damage at first stand. Because it was very hard to predict the collapse of Genji with how good they looked in the regular split. Very hard to predict, I think. But in the aftermath, we have to say, while G2 was very impressive, BFX and Genji were not good. On will be the player of the tournament as BOG find an edge over HLE through support. Honestly, I don't think this is a crazy angle. I think it's a hot take in the sense because of how people rate Keria. And I think that's completely understandable. But I made a similar take as to why I think BOG have an edge over HLE. I think On is a part of that. I think On is a fantastic player, and I think that he did a lot in terms of shaping the current meta of support. And Keria has a very big challenge because how T1 is built is very different and unique. But HLE versus BOG is a matchup that, of course, there's a lot of similarities in terms of how both of these teams run, and I think On will be better there. Knight will astrogap Faker, and T1 fans will say the opposite regardless of results. I don't know. In the past, I would get annoyed at like a group of T1 fans, but I think it's so old, and I think it's irrational to like talk about fans in this way. But the idea that Knight would astrogap Faker, I think it's entirely possible based on what the form currently is. And Knight tends to be pretty damn good at MSI, and his record, Knight's record against Faker at MSI is insanely good. This is G2's best chance to win an international because of recent patch changes impacting jungle champions. Owner will be the weakest jungler of the favorites to win in the tournament because of those changes. Kanavi and Shun will also be impacted, but Skumond will thrive. I don't think that the changes are that heavy-handed, but we will see. We will see. I'm skeptical. But I do think heading into a tournament, I know in hindsight, first stand was amazing for G2. But heading into a tournament, I'm more optimistic for G2 in this one than I was for them at first stand. I knew that BFX could be a freebie because they had first international. This is a team that struck lightning when it came to the meta for them, right? There was a period there where it was like play through bot lane, carry bot lane, Lulu bot lane, Yonara bot lane, bot lane, bot lane, bot lane. It was perfect for Kalist and Kellen. But I do think on paper, this is not a crazy thing to say. It's been a long time. Even though G2's percentage to win might be 1, okay? Might be 1%. Maybe less than 1%. Past MSIs, past World Championships, even first stand, considering how good Genji looked, I think their chances of winning that was slimmer than this one. Even though that it's insanely slim. Less than 1%, nah, bud. You think they have a higher chance than 1% to win this tournament? When the field is, when it's double elimination, BO5s, against HLE, T1, and BOG? Guys, 5% is insanely high. It's really high. What would you say BOG percentages? I would say BOG is like, I don't know. I would have to sit and think to make it an accurate 100, but I think BOG is like 32, and I think that HLE is like 30, and I think T1 is like 28, and then you can sprinkle the percentages amongst the rest of the teams, you know? They have 10% to share, you know? The rest of the teams. I just think on paper, heading into first stand, Genji just looked so unbeatable that I wouldn't even conceive the idea of you know, G2 winning that. But here, honestly, the top teams, like, there's a messiness attached to all of the top teams. I think G2 can take advantage. Tournament will be boring and be almost all 3-0s, no Genji, no Goof BO5s. I think we're going to have some close matchups. HLE, T1, BOG playing against each other will be close. I don't think any of those series will be 3-0. I just don't think so. G2 will end 3rd place in the tournament. Yes, they will be one of the 3 top Asian teams. No, not you, Top Esports. I think they're going to beat Top Esports in the first round. I think they have a slight edge. But, I don't know. I think it's a big ask. It's a big ask because to make top 3, I guess you can go through the upper bracket to make top 3 and you need to just beat 1. But you could also get really lucky. I guess you can get lucky. Because look, in terms of how the bracket plays out, I don't know if there's any rules about side of bracket. I think the only rule is that I think that G2 will be here and then BOG will be here. I think BOG and G2 will be split. And I think everything else is random, right? And then you have 1-2-3 matchup and 1-2-3 matchup. So we have G2 versus Top Esports, BOG versus T1, HLE versus a team, and then LYON versus a team. Well, I think the fact that BOG versus T1 is just the first round matchup just makes it... it's going to make the lower bracket demonic, bro. BOG versus T1 being the first round is just absolutely demonic. So you have BOG, T1, and then LYON and Furia. So at least to make it here, at least BOG and T1 needed to beat each other to make it there. So basically what will happen is that G2 will have to beat HLE after beating Top Esports. Ooh. Or T1 or BOG in the lower bracket. Ooh. It's tough, man. It's hard for me to imagine that. It's really, really hard for me to imagine that. I cannot imagine that. G2 dismantles Top Esports round 1, then beats HLE in semis, only to find T1 waiting in the finals. There, T1 win the Game 5 banger. Zeus is going to be the best player at the tournament. I think he's a candidate. I think if HLE win, I wouldn't be surprised if he was. I think Zeus is a candidate. Considering the changes to top lane, nerfed tanks, more carries, maybe the meta will evolve into carry city for top laners. Zeus versus Ben is going to be a freaking fun arms race to pay attention to. How these two guys are going to develop and how they're going to perform at this tournament is also a big implication into the conversation of the GOAT conversation for top lane. Because I think that Bin and Zeus are in the race for that. The chance that G2 beats both LCK teams at MSI is even less than at first stand. Well, obviously, in the aftermath, BFX, even on paper, was always going to be the weakest out of these 4. But obviously now that we know how Genji played at first stand, I think this is a very easy take to make. HLE and T1 look way better. Way, way better. Skumon is the #1 jungler at MSI and will out-jungle his opposition. Oof. He did it to Canyon. But anyone that has been watching Genji and Canyon knows that Canyon has been low-key, high-key, kind of washed. And beating Canyon is still respectable. But Shun cooked him. And I don't think Raptor and Canyon are on the same level as Owner, Shun, and Kanavi right now. And I think that if Skumon beats even one of these guys, he's legendary, bro. Going into first time, people were giving 0 chance of G2 beating Genji. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that makes this conversation a little bit more interesting, right? Is that Genji looked unbeatable going into first stand. They really looked unbeatable. It'll be night tournament. He'll be mind-blowing and stomp every mid lane like crazy in 1v9 as MSI. Top solo kill, top KD, most kill per game, most damage per game as a mid laner. I am all for W Glaze mid laners. I think that's what the meta is about. Support jungle, setting up your mid laner for success to win. I can see this happening. I think Knight is the best player coming into the tournament. I'm just a mid lane glazer. T1 finally winning it after 9 years. Yo, I respect someone that knows ball, you know? It's been a while. It's been a while since T1 won MSI. It's crazy that 2017 was 9 years ago. 2017 was 9 years ago, bro. What are we talking about was 9 years ago? 2017 with the demonic T1 run. I have to say though, MSI has gotten way harder since then. with the new format. T1 will win MSI and G2 eliminate Guma Shitty's team and will play final. Why are we insulting Gumayushi? Honestly, guys, Arsenal won. Arsenal won. Maybe Ferrari will win. Maybe G2 will win MSI as well. Why not, bro? Nico won. I don't understand how you can be a T1 fan and hate on Gumayushi, bro. Have some respect. The West will end up with as many teams as the East in top 4. So for this to happen, this man believes either KC... So it's not only about G2, alright? G2, we've talked about the G2 angle. But my man thinks that KC, LYON, or Team Liquid is going to make it into top 4 over T1, BOG, HLE. Let's let that simmer for a moment. What on earth are we talking about? HLE are levels above any other team at the moment. They can go into every match without worry of losing if they play as they have been. Probably not a hot take as most people have them as favorites, but I don't think the gap is as big as I do. They don't think... So he just thinks that HLE is giga-goated. I think that HLE carries a little bit of risk as a team. I've seen Kanavi at his worst, and I do think that the range of play for other jungler and supports can be a difference maker. But I do think that HLE have really struck, gold in terms of how the meta has aligned for them, which can be their biggest weapon. I do think that the HLE that we've seen play is with each individual player like really being in their element in terms of what the role is on the team. So HLE is definitely one of the big favorites to win this tournament. G2 loses in finals. T1 doesn't go past play-ins, says KC Seb. G2 versus T1 finals, and G2 is MSI champion? Question mark. MSI is a stupid tournament name. Agreed. Mid-Season Invitational, you have to qualify for it. What are we talking about? T1 and BOG won't make grand finals. Alright, so he just believes in the Hanhwa Life G2 finals, I believe. Maybe top esports HLE. People are overgassing the West, and it's definitely just going to be a battle of the Eastern teams for the top 4 spots. Top esports versus G2 is a very interesting conversation. But I do think that top esports is being heavily underestimated by the community. LYON will defeat one LCK/LPL team in a BO5. DCG versus KC in the playins will be a close series, Game 4 or Game 5. Team Secrets Wales will make it to top 4 this MSI. I have a strong feeling one of these will happen, haha. I think that KC could drop a game against DCG. Why not? The other two is, I don't know, criminalized drugs. There is a solid chance neither one of the Korean teams is reaching grand finals. LP are going to this as the favorites. I don't think T1 is guaranteed to win play-ins, and I don't believe in HLE. Damn. WBOG Glaze. I think that HLE is very dangerous. I think the main reason people might not believe in HLE is because of Kanavi. But that's a simple way of viewing things. And maybe he's going to lean into his cage fighting self. G2 is a top 3 team. Guma is better than Pays. Inspired every other jungler. Berserker will get a penta. Jose Diodo will out-jungle the Koreans. This must be an American. Jose Diodo will out-jungle the Koreans being Kanavi and Owner. That's a very big ask, bro. Inspired better than every other jungle. The only world where that can be considered is in terms of value they bring to the team. But in terms of pure jungling, that ain't happening. Guma, that much better than Pays? I think Guma is better at the meta than Pays. But Pays has made a name for himself playing a very unique way in comparison to other junglers. ADCs, sorry. So I think that this is about a perspective. This is like we're watching a fruit bowl from different angles. You might be seeing all bananas, but on the other side, maybe there's some grapes and some apples. And I think that makes a difference. HLE will win MSI and DLYON will win MVP. I think DLYON winning MVP is crazy. If this team wins, I just can't see a world where Zeka or Zeus or Gumayushi or even Kanavi. I just think there's a way higher chance that these guys, bro, like a way higher chance that they are the ones. G2 sweeps everyone but BOG. Alright, everyone's just taking their hot takes from first stand. Knight will cement himself as the best player in the world after this tournament. I think it's entirely possible. Scumond is overrated and will have a bad international performance. I have to say, I'm a super big fan of Scumond. Super big fan of Scumond. But with the way he's being propped up right now and the expectations on him, if we consider, the conversation here, There's a world here where he might not outperform some of the top junglers here. But those top junglers are Kanavi, Shun, and Owner, and even Tian. There's a world where Skumon plays worse than these guys. And that should be like acceptable because these guys are really damn good. Saying that Skumon is overrated, even as someone that is a Skumon glazer, I think is fair. Considering we've read some takes saying that Skumon is obviously going to be the best jungler here. Fnatic will be bought by Dubai Lord and will win MSI in 3 years. Shout out to Dubai Lord. This is G2's best chance to win an international tournament since 2019, and if teams in every region keep playing as messy as they have been, it shouldn't even be that hard. The thing is, G2's messy too, but I do think that there is opportunity in the messiness of the top-end teams. All 5 top teams at this tournament are messy in some way or form, and there's opportunity in that for sure. BLG are going to revert to fighting every objective into T1, and honestly, even this current iteration of HLE, I think they would just play smart and outdraft this, and as a result, look a lot more clutch than the LPL. I don't think that BLG will shift back into that. I think that the Dany BLG is very different from past. G2 in the finals, but it's not even a hot take. It's insanely hot. People are just copy-pasting. You know, if you guys watch like a season of a show, and then you watch the next season, it's like League of Legends isn't House, where the narrative keeps repeating and is comforting in that way because, wow, there's a new disease coming in. And then Dr. House makes an assessment, but he doesn't make the right assessment. And then while taking a shit on the toilet, Dr. House realizes, as he's sniffing the smell, oh my god, I made a mistake. I know the solution. This person is actually eating toilet paper rolls in secret and didn't tell anyone. Dum dum dum. And that build-up of a narrative being repetitive is comforting in many ways. But League of Legends doesn't work that way, especially because, you know, the opposition is very different and the conditions are different, the patch changes and everything changes. Fnatic with Grok assistant coach could beat TL. Honestly, maybe. Zeka would have cooled down by then and can't carry Guma useless anymore, so they'll finish worse than 4th. What the hell? T will finally start losing scrims and then they'll have to play better and then they will finally improve. What? Yo, what on earth? What the hell? BLG crashes out and HLE wins, but haters will say Viper is the best ADC in the world. I think this is, from reading this, right? I don't think that, I think this is one of the fans that it is upset by the fact that, for example, last year Gumayushi was good at MSI and then the best ADC in the world during Worlds. But the entire majority of the year, Viper was better. But there's some fans that only look at the World Championship because that's all they watch. They don't think it's everything else is that interesting, which is okay. You know, it is what it is. You know, but I think that's where it comes from. But saying, but like, it's so. Why is Gumayushi just the most polarizing person in the world, bro? I wish Gumayushi fans and haters would be a little bit more like Gumayushi. This guy just puts his head down and does the work. And then he looks like a Chad on stage and peppers. Korea is still weaker than both BLG and G2. Not sure about top esports. I think that the Korean teams look kind of scary, guys. KC will beat T1. Viper is a bland ADC and doesn't look well on anything. Look, I talked about Viper being the least important piece on BLG right now, but we have gone too far in the other direction to the point where we are just underestimating Viper, bro. Viper is still really damn good at the game. Aside from HLE, no Korean teams are worth this year's MSI. Genji and KT included. Bro, this guy just thinks T1 sucks balls, which is crazy, bro. LYON will make it past quarters. Well, to be fair, they will make it past quarters. Because they're playing against either an LCP team or Brazil. So, they will make it past quarters. They will be top 6. KC not make it out of groups, not a hot take. G2 semis lost finals. Alright, people are really high on G2, bro. People are really, really high on G2. TO beats T1 in 2 best of 5 and both series goes to game 5. Morgan. That's crazy talk, bro. I don't know. Who can walk away from that finals and think to themselves, you know what? They're beating T1 twice. Crazy talk. ZOFGK ends the tournament as the second best mid in the world. That's not a hot take at all, bro. What are we talking about? That's not hot at all. Do you think upcoming Kaiser buffs might make a prior pick in pro? I doubt it. My hot take is that there should be 3 SKS for MSI because Genji is the reigning MSI champion and 2 teams in play lane should go through. So you want 10 teams in the tournament. Honestly, I'm for more tournaments. I think T1 will lose the first play in series against TL but end up winning through losers brackets just because normally T1's first series in the dash are really bad. Even if it is, I don't think it matters. T1 is the most conflict team out of the major regions, and if Owner and Keria have a bad day, they can drop a series to even KC. Owner and Keria could have bad days, yeah, could have, but it's still a big ask, you know? I do have an expectation that there's going to be a ramp up from T1's side, and I'm going to believe that until it doesn't happen. And this could be the event that it doesn't happen. So I do think that there is some risk to T1. But on bad days, they destroy bad LCK teams, and that can be still enough to beat KC at this point in time. It's bullshit that Tier 1 teams have harder first round matches than Tier 2 teams. I think it's bullshit too. I threw up a little reading these replies. The take will be so hot that Grandpa Faker will have to go rest with a blower and lose to KC. TES about to make a generational run now that Choker 369 and Double Agent Kanavi is gone. Jackie Love is still there and they have 2 new rookies. I think that I'm really hyped to see Top Esports play, but I'm worried about them. I'm worried. Scumond is massively overhyped, understandably so after first stand performance, but the reality is Genji and BFX are massive fucking frauds, and he won't be able to do what he did versus HLE, BOG or T1. They do beat TES though, in my opinion. They are complete frauds as well. He kinda cooked. Faker's a bottom 4 mid at the tournament. That's a steep jump. Come on now. BOG won't plays well because of Viper. His role is not significant, but he still plays that role good. Will it be low-key boring without Genji? Genji's a fun team, but I think we have a cool makeup of teams. G2 will beat HLE on the way to the finals. Scumon will be put into the Kanavi cage and defeat him. So there's an analogy that I had for Kanavi and his Top Esports, is that every game of theirs, their whole game design was to put jungle v jungle in a cage. And then it worked in LPL, but then whenever Top Esports played internationally, the enemy jungle would just not show up to the cage. And then Kanavi will be in this cage fighting himself. So he's referencing this analogy. And he's saying Scumond is going to jump into that cage and fist fight him. Everyone's saying HLE is shaky, but they will mop everybody up besides BOG. I do think that every team there's no team that is super clean. To be honest, the only team that has been ever super clean during the era of Fearless, which is what made Genji so damn impressive, is Genji. Every other team was messy. Even T1's World's Run. That was sketchy as all hell. They were dancing with defeat perma. The only team, top level team ever to be clean in the world of Fearless is Genji. And Genji is not in the tournament. The top 5, very messy. You know? Let's take a look at this one. Tian, best jungler. Kanavi, Owner, Shun, Inspired, Tattoo. Alright. Knight, Zeka, Caps, Cream, Faker. Jackie Love, Viper, Pays, Gumayushi. Holy, we got the Top Esports fan in the building. Thing is, Tian has been really good. Like, the thing is, Jackie Love and Tian have been really good in the regular, like in the LPL, bro. They've been really good. But, I don't know, bro. It's not happening, bro. Come on now. I think this is a fair take. I think this is a fair take. I made a similar take on Summoning Insight 2 weeks ago. We covered all the hot takes. There you have it. Hot takes.